Welcome to another episode of the Rugby League Outsiders Set of Six, our weekly news show where we share the good, the great and the newsworthy of Rugby League outside the heartlands. My name's Craig.
And my name's Karl, and on this week's Set of Six we'll have a full update of University Rugby League. We'll be talking about the latest inductees into the Hall of Fame, and without doubt we've got to talk again about players diving and staying down.
Okay, another interesting week of Rugby League in and around the heartlands. Loads of interesting stories. Karl, you've picked out six. What's been your main criteria for your stories this week?
The usual, mate, just a real varied stories from the heartlands, outside the heartlands, University Rugby League, Women's Rugby League, just a real varied bunch of stories that I've got this week. Some crackers as well. Yeah,
and before we get into it, I just want to say thank you to everybody that watched the show and our other videos last week. Really gaining some momentum with this channel. So I thank you all for that. And please, keep subscribing. Please keep sharing, because it all lets us know that we're giving you the right information.
Or the wrong information. If you want to disagree with what you say, you're very welcome to comment that as well, which people have been doing.
Yeah, right. So, keep them comments going, by the way, because we love a bit of chit-chat both ways. Right, Karl, let's get into it. So, story one, we can't get past this. We broached the subject last week. Sam Burgess's comments and all this kind of stuff. So, it's this idea that players milking penalties and and unsporting conduct, really.
We've been talking about it all season, haven't we? And right at the start of the season, new rules came in where they want to protect players' heads. Completely understand it. I think everybody understands it. The sport's going through potentially a big legal battle, which is not great. And obviously the sport's got to be made safer. We've discussed that all year. But what's really crept in, and I see so much frustration with this amongst the fans, is players, and no, let's call it out, they are deliberately staying down to stop the game so that referee has to look at gets the video referee involved to look at an incident that may or may not have happened, and it's really annoying. I can't stand it. I don't know what your thoughts on this are.
Sam Tompkins made a really interesting point during his commentary on one of the games, and that is that whenever players feel contact with the head. Now, what he said was, you're always feeling contact with the head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get knocks to the head constantly in the game. That we play a collision sport. You're constantly getting hits to the head. So it's not like it's a strange occurrence. All that's happening is the slightest touch, and they're just seeing it as like an opportunity to stay on the floor. Not every player. Ollie Russell, again, pure class. He got absolute high tackle. All right, stayed on his feet, kind of shook it off, looked at the ref, got the call, as like a high shot, carried on with his game. He didn't need to throw himself on the floor, Drinkwater-esque, you know what I mean, and milk it.
I think lowering the tackle height, I'm all for it. I think it's got to be done. And I think so far the data shows this season that there's been less concussions than there has in previous seasons. So that's all good. It's great. That's what you want. But players deliberately staying down to get a penalty, I just absolutely boils my piss. And it's just every week now. It's all we seem to be talking about. And it's actually affecting the results of games, because we're seeing so many yellow cards now that it's directly affecting the game. And look, Sam Burgess called it out, didn't he, last week? He was absolutely fuming, but he's got egg on his face a bit this week, because Drinkwater went down. He got a bit of a push in the back this week after he'd passed the ball. And it was late, and it was a penalty. And I can't prove or not disprove if he was injured or not. But I would say, knowing a rugby league player and the battles that they go through, there was no way he was injured when he went down from that challenge. He got a bit of a push in the back and he stayed down. Yeah, and it makes the sport look pathetic, I think.
Well, one of my biggest gripes around football, that game that can't be mentioned on this channel usually, is this idea that milking penalties and all that kind of stuff. And
that's where we've got.
That's where we're at now. My heart says that we're going to stamp this out. We can't do it right now in the middle of the season. I genuinely think we're going to stamp it out, because Sam Burgess had a crack last week. Willie Peters has had a crack this week. It's obvious that, majority of supporters are against this. So we've got to do something. And I think they can't do it right now in the middle of the season.
Because supporters aren't stupid. A lot of rugby league supporters have all played the game and they know it's a tough and hard game. So you can tell when someone's milking a penalty. We're not stupid. And yeah, like you say, he's got to be stamped out and quickly because it's really damaging for the game, I think. Well,
I thought, obviously, so it's like, what do we do? And obviously, Sam Burgess had his say about, what could be done. And I picked up on a post from Richard Silverwood basically saying that, there is a really easy way to cancel this out. And what he was saying, or what he suggested, was that if you take the video referee's ability to make that call away and leave it with the on-field referee, okay, and if he sees it, if he calls it, then fine. And if he blows for a penalty, then the video referee can come and have a look at it and decide whether there's mitigating circumstances, how severe it was, and all that kind of thing. Then that would in effect eradicate it because it's now down to the call on the pitch. Because I personally think the referees are getting a lot of stick, but I think their hands are a little bit tied.
No, they're doing their job that the laws are set out to do. They're just following the laws of the game.
Yeah, so if you change, it's a slight change, I think that would have a real good positive effect, on this problem that we've got. And then the other thing is obviously changing it slightly where if a player does receive contact to the head and drops like a sack of shit, then they have to get, taken off for a head HIA.
We said that, didn't we? Somebody went a step further, actually, and commented on our video next week. Apologies, I've forgotten the name, but he said, anyone gets like a head injury or anything, they don't just have to go off. They have to go off on a stretcher. Like they do in football.
Yeah.
And if you're play acting at that point and you're getting stretchered off, you're going to look a bit stupid. So, look, I've no doubt players get head injuries and we have to protect them at all costs, but there's without doubt people just staying down now just to pull the wool over the eyes of the referee.
Well, I think
it's driving me mad.
It's driving me mad, but I think this is something we've got to put up with until the end of the season. Hopefully, there won't be too many shockers. I know we've had a couple this round already in the Super League where
decisions this week determined the result of the games. You could definitely
argue with that, and we've still got a couple of rounds to go, so hopefully there won't be anything that is affected too much by these calls, but I genuinely think during the off season this is going to change. This is going to get dealt with, surely.
Hopefully, yeah. Watch this space. I don't know. There's not much we can say about it. This is a bit of a rant, I suppose, but something we've spoke about the last couple of weeks, and it's getting worse, which is, as we're getting towards the playoffs, not a good look.
No, it's not. So anyway, if you've got a suggestion on what the officials could do to sort this out, what could the coaches do? What can the players themselves do? You've got to put yourself into the position of a player, and it's a hard-fought game, and the League Leaders' Shield depends on this. And if you just lie on the floor, you're going to give yourself a massive advantage. In their mind, they're not cheating, they're playing to the rules.
Yep.
Then, what are you going to do? So, if you've got suggestions, stick them in the comments below and get the discussion going. Okay, so we're going to move on to the second story then, and a little bit of Southern Conference news then as that season comes to an end.
Yeah, so this is a bit of a Southern Conference League roundup, women's Southern roundup, I suppose. I've just got a couple of results I wanted to go through. So Hammersmith defeated West Warriors 12 points to 6 this week in the Southern Conference League final. We've been keeping an eye on that all year. Unfortunately, neither of us could make it to the game. Looked like an incredibly close game, and I think Hammersmith have been slightly better than Wests as the season's gone along. They did finish top of the league. I know it was one game apiece in the league earlier on, but yeah, that's an incredibly tight fought fixture. And that's Hammersmith have done the double now, 2 years running for Hammersmith. So
good effort.
Yeah, and do you know what? Someone's mentioned this to me actually this week when I was on holiday. It was like, I think did Siddle win the NCL?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great to see the best NCL and best SCL team take part in amateur? It's essentially determining who the best amateur club in the country is, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be a real belting game.
And I know I think the view of people up north is the Southern Conference League is not really at the level of the Northern Conference League, but I think that would make a cracking fixture. Like to open next year, Hammersmith v Siddle, or apologies if he wasn't Siddle that won the league. Yeah, just see who come out on top of that. Be ace.
Yeah, because those teams up north might think, okay, it was a Southern team, but actually Triple H packed full of Aussies and Kiwis, and you know what I mean. So
and you've only got to look at what they did in the
Challenge Cup.
In the Challenge Cup, yeah. So that'd be great game to watch. Yeah. So other fixtures that took place this week. So the Southern Championship final, the women's final, took place this week. Another two teams we've been keeping an eye on all year. So London Broncos ladies came out on top against Cardiff Demons, 28 points to 8 in the ladies Southern Conference League final. Southern Championship, I think it's called in the women's league. So to put that into context. How we go from that, I've got sort of the rest of the fixtures. So this is the road to Super League now for London Broncos. So how it goes now. So the winners of the Southern Conference, London, will play the winners of the Northern Championship. So we're not at the final yet with the Northern Championship. So Lee have got to play Ulton Raiders and Salford have got to play Sheffield Eagles in the semi-finals, and then they will play off for the Northern Championship, and the winner of that will play London Broncos. Then it gets even more exciting. So Featherstone Rovers have finished bottom of the Women's Super League. Yeah. They will play the winner of that fixture then. The Northern Championship and the Southern Championship winner, they'll play off, and then that winner will take on Featherstone. And the winner gets a spot in Super League, in the Women's Super League next year. Yes,
I mean, it's just an incredible opportunity for all these teams.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've followed London. We went and spent a day with them and learnt a lot about them, chatted to some of their players, and to see them potentially head up to Super League would be a great finish to what's been an epic journey.
Yeah, I mean, they're still 2 games away, but that carrot has been dangled, and they've very much got that opportunity. So yeah, best of luck to all the teams still fighting it out in Women's Rugby League.
Yep, fair play. Okay, moving on to the next story then.
So tackle 3, we have to review the New England shirt.
Yeah,
New England shirt has dropped. What can we say? Like, I'll go with you straight away. What are your opinions on the New England shirt? We've got it up on screen at the minute.
Yeah, first impressions. Well, let's summarise it. Do I like it? Do I not like it? I don't really like it. And I'll tell you why. It looks to me like an old school football top rather than a rugby league jersey. And actually, to me, it doesn't scream like a national side. It looks like if you blended, let's say like a French shirt and a Great Britain shirt got together and had some kind of freaky rugby league jersey baby, right? This is what I think it would look like. And it doesn't scream England to me at all, which is a bit of a shame. It's very, very close to Great Britain colours. So maybe it'll grow me, I don't know.
Right.
But I'm not that favourable of it at the minute.
Right. Well, my opinion is I like the shirt. I think if you saw any Super League team or wearing that kit, I would go, yeah, that's a nice shirt. I really like that
shirt. Like a
club
shirt.
Yeah, as a club shirt. Like you can imagine Wakefield wearing that, and you'd go, yeah, it's a nice Wakefield shirt. It's a well designed shirt, I think.
Yeah, it can.
I aren't bothered the fact that it looks a bit like the England football from the it was like the Kevin Keegan era, wasn't it? I think 80s. So I like the shirt. I think it's a nice design, but I'm not sure it quite looks like an England shirt. And yeah, I think we seem to have a little bit of an identity crisis with England Rugby League at the minute. So we were very much all white, weren't we, with a bit of red. I think they moved away from that a little bit because I think they potentially wanted an identity a little bit away from what the rugby union side had. So they went with the sort of navy, didn't they? Completely changed it up the other year, and I was on board with it. I quite liked it. The shirts were strong, and it still had a strong identity. But now they've mixed the two together. I'm not on board with it. And it looks, like I say, it looks like a good shirt. It fits in well with the sponsor, the Betfred sponsor, because it's similar colours. That may have played a part in it.
Yeah.
You could well say. Betfred have thrown an awful lot of money at rugby league lately, so if that's the case, that's the case. But yeah, I don't think it quite has a strong English identity.
Well, here's another thing to bear in mind. What about the price?
So £87.98 apparently is the full price, but it is on offer at the minute at £54.99, and even that's fairly steep. But that is pretty much the general price of rugby shirts these days. And look, mate, if you go buy a football shirt these days, like £100.
Well, don't worry about that. Won't be happening anytime soon. But I mean, you do get like a training sort of limited edition. Was it a limited edition T-shirt as well? Or?
Yeah, it's like a warm-up top in it, and it's got all the community clubs within the shirt, which is great touch. I think it's really great that England Rugby League are recognising all the community clubs up and down the country. So yeah, great. But yeah, you mentioned it earlier that it has a bit of a GB look about it, and this is the thing what I'm not quite sure about. So I know GB idea was floated this year. I wonder if right. I wonder if this was actually going to be the GB shirt, mate. Do you know what I mean? I've just thought about it now. I can see that with a Great Britain badge on it.
Yeah, 100%. That's my point.
So maybe they've gone right. Okay, we're not doing GB this year. We're going to stick with England, but then we've ended up with a kit that looks more like a GB kit than an England shirt.
Okay, so we're going to do the old
good news. Good news. They're keeping this for 2 years off. It's 2024 and 2025. I think that is a lot of fans have had a bit of a problem with the last couple of years. Like they bring a new England shirt out and we play one test series a year, and then we play one game in the middle of the year, which we had an MND jersey for, so that only got worn once, and then the other England shirt only got worn 3 times. But at least they're keeping this for 2 years. So. And they have said that England will be wearing this in Vegas as well when the women play in Vegas. So it sounds like GB's been done away with. There's kind of more to this shirt than just a shirt, but yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to rate it in a second, but before we do that, a couple of questions for you watching this. So 1, would you buy it? Yes or no? Simple as that. And 2, what's your thoughts on it? What's your rating out of 10? What's your comments on it? It'd be really interesting to hear what you've got to say. So, Karl, if you could mark this out of 10 points, your opinion, what would you score it?
It's a nice shirt, but it's not an England shirt. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. But it would have made a great GB shirt.
If it was a GB shirt, what would you score it?
And then a 7 out of 10.
No, well, I think I'd give it an 8 out of 10 if it was a GB shirt. As an England shirt, I'm sorry, you've kind of lost me with the lack of sort of strong identity for the England team. So I'm going to give it a 6.
Oh, you nearly said 4 then.
I didn't. I was going to say 5.9. Oh. But yeah. So anyway, interesting. New shirts. Don't forget. Every year we do our shirt review video, really, really popular. So we're looking forward to that in 2025 as well. So check back for that. Okay, moving on to the next story then. We're going to talk about new inductees into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so continuing the England theme, the latest Hall of Fame inductees have been announced. So we've had inducted into it this year current players Jane Banks, Michelle Land, Jamie Peacock and Paul Sculthorpe. Banks...
Well, they're not current players, are they?
Well, sorry... No.
This cohort, if you like.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So Jane Banks, 19 caps for GB, 4 tours to the Southern Hemisphere. Started her career in 1996, and then Michelle Land, who played for Wakefield Panthers. She was the captain of Wakefield Panthers and represented GB 16 times. So 2 women inducted into the Hall of Fame, and then Jamie Peacock, who needs no introduction, and Paul Sculthorpe.
Yeah, so we did a bit of digging. If you're not aware of the Rugby League Hall of Fame, like what is the criteria from that? So we did a bit of digging and to get out what the criteria is. This is really important because in Williams Weekly later on in this show, we're going to talk about who we think is going to be the next player or former player to be inducted into the Rugby League Hall of Fame. Now, unless they meet a certain criteria, you're not even going to get nominated. So, Karl, can you just sort of fill us in? Like, who decides who goes in, and what is the criteria to be eligible?
Well, it's a little bit vague who decides goes in, but I think it's a mix of broadcasters, journalists, and officials at the RFL. Between them, decide. And you have to have played. You have to have retired 5 years ago before they will even consider you, and then you've got to have played at least 10 years in the British game to be considered to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Funnily enough, there's a different Hall of Fame in Australia, so surely we should only have one, but That's rugby league for you.
Yeah, it makes too much sense, wouldn't it, to have like a, a joint Hall of Fame and split it up and have two. Oh, great. Well, I suppose if they're going to have the criteria like you must have played 10 years at the British, the highest level of the British game, then if you played in Oz, you couldn't get in the Hall of Fame.
It's the British Hall of Fame, isn't it, essentially. So Jamie Peacock's stats, I did a little bit of digging on Jamie Peacock's stats, which are just off the chart. That the 47 international appearances. Obviously, made his debut for Bradford in 1999. Went on to play for Leeds, Hull KR. He won 2 Challenge Cups and 3 Grad Finals with Bradford Bulls. He won 6 Grand Finals and 2 Challenge Cups with Leeds Rhinos. 2003 Man of Steel, and he was inducted into the Dream Team 11 times.
Yeah.
Peacock was just a warrior, wasn't he? And for both clubs, he's as respected as he is at Bradford as he is at Leeds. It just, what your biggest memory of Jamie Peacock? What would you remember him for?
Well, what I remember Jamie Peacock is my favourite player without doubt because he was a warrior. You know what I mean? He played at Leeds. All right, he had a little blip and he started at Bradford and all that. But, he was just an incredible player, incredible competitor. What I remember most about him is the fact that he was actually a late starter to the professional game. When you learn about his induction into the Super League, he was given a chance, wasn't he?
Came through Stanley, didn't he?
He came through Stanley.
Junior team,
yeah. But Brian Noble was like, all right, he came for a trial and he goes, well, God, he runs like a freaking set of scaffolding.
It's true.
But I'm going to give it a chance. He saw something in him. He was just a very industrious player and gave him a chance. And then to go on and get all these accolades was just incredible for anybody who's like a late starter, And the other thing as well is, he's incredibly humble in all these accolades. Whenever he talks about it, he'll kind of suggest that he just had good players around him. And you're like, well, no, you're a great player amongst good players, and that made great teams, So
the other thing he's always said is he was an incredibly hard worker, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And that's he just worked his socks off. You never saw Jamie Peacock have a bad game. Or if he maybe had a little bit of a bad game when knocked on a few times, his effort level was as high as anybody on the pitch every game. I think my biggest memory of Jamie Peacock was when Fielden was fighting Willie Mason and he came in and just dusted Willie Mason. just dropped Mason like a sack of spuds. And his lip were always bleeding as well. He played 15 years with a bust lip. What was all that about? Yeah, it was always in the wars. And Paul Sculthorpe, the other one that's been inducted, Paul Sculthorpe, MBE of Oldham, originally came from. So his stats, 2-time Man of Steel, 3 Super League Grand Finals, 3 Challenge Cup wins, and 3 World Club Challenges. 3 World Club Challenges. That's immense just in itself. And he was Super League record signing. Yeah, £375,000. It was paid for him,
and all that. And he was actually plagued by injuries. In fact, both of these players, if you haven't read their books, both phenomenal books. So seek them out and read them. But when you go into it, he was really plagued by knee injuries. So to then go on and get all those accolades and have those injuries are phenomenal. Funnily
enough, my biggest lasting memory of Paul Sculthorpe it was also when he was getting stuck into Andy Farrell and the Wigan Saints derby. It absolutely went for Andy Farrell, didn't he? Them two just went off like a bottle of pop that game.
That's the infamous shithouse fight, wasn't it? When he's like, "You're a shithouse, you're a shithouse." It was brilliant. Just going back to Jamie Peacock, a little bit from his book I just remembered. Apparently, someone knocked on his door, like his kids were playing in the garden or something like that. Someone knocked on his door, and like locally, someone had these freaking birds, these peacock birds, right? And they'd gone missing. Right? And apparently, someone knocked on his door and said, "Oh, excuse me, there's a couple of peacocks in your garden." And Jamie Peacock was like, "Yeah, they're my kids." But anyway, something like that. Probably butchered that story, but great book. No white flag.
Yeah, it is.
No white flag in it.
Yeah, no white flag. Jamie Peacock's. Yeah.
Brilliant. Love him. Love everything about what he does, and definitely deserved spot there in the Rugby League Hall of Fame.
Yeah, okay, we'll move on to tackle 5 then. University Rugby League is back in a few weeks' time, and there's been a bit of a restructure this year. So we only started learning about University Rugby League, didn't we, last year, it's fair to say, and what a journey we went on with it. There's some incredible athletes playing University Rugby League, and any Super League or Championship clubs should really be looking at University Rugby League because the talent on offer is incredible and it's really well structured. How the whole...
I'll just stop you there, Karl. You've gone past your 4 incredible quota. You're not allowed to use that word anymore.
Oh, incredible. So yeah, it's been restructured anyway. There's been a national competition put in this year. So it was very regionalised, but they're recognising that some of these southern teams now are right up there with the northern teams. So the national championship. So in the national competition, there's going to be Northumbria, Leeds Beckett, Newcastle, Leeds, Exeter, and Loughborough. One thing I would say, there's a hell of a lot of travelling to be doing there.
Well, Exeter and Newcastle.
Exeter and Newcastle, Northumbria. Yeah, so great to see though. And there's also a southern Premiership, which is like a tier below. So for sort of Midlands, London-based teams. So in that we've got Gloucester, St Mary's, Nottingham Trent, Swansea, Exeter 2s and Loughborough 2s. And we'll have some more university updates about the divisions as they start getting on further in the year, and we'll keep up to date with it.
Yeah, and just looking forward to next year. So we will be covering the varsity game as well, the Oxford-Cambridge game, which was an absolute spectacle last year. We loved every bit of it, and so much so that we want to get involved a lot more this year. We're going to do lots of behind-the-scenes stuff for that, so make sure you subscribe to get content like that as we move into the future.
Yeah, we're up to Williams Weekly then.
So we talked about the Hall of Fame. Okay, 2 new inductees to the Male Hall of Fame, 2 to the Female Hall of Fame. The question I want to pose is, who do you think is going to be the next former player, to be inducted into the Hall of Fame? So straight away you might sort of think there's a couple of contenders there. We did a bit of bouncing backwards and forwards before we started to record, and we come up with a couple of names. So we're going to come into them in a minute, so stay with us. But remember that criteria. So they must have played 10 years in the British game. They have got to be retired for at least 5 years before they're eligible. And, when you think about like Jamie Peacock, Paul Sculthorpe and the accolades they've got in regards to the game, it's not just any old bloody...
Yeah, it's got to...
You've got player. They've got to be a significant player to get involved. So really think about that. So, Karl, who do you think is up there as potentially the next... if we could to speculate who would be next inducted into the Hall of Fame?
Well, it's quite an obvious one for me, and I said this to you before, but being a Bradford fan, I think Robbie Paul did a load for the game.
Do you know, I can hear a load of people going, what the fuck?
No,
you're right. He did.
Yeah.
But to justify it.
At a time when, remember before Super League started, Rugby League wasn't in a great shape, was it? We had the Stones Bitter Championship or whatever it was called back then. And Super League came about, and obviously Bradford, they transformed as a club at that time, but it was all centred around this one young lad, Robbie Paul. I think he was 17, 18 at the time when he broke into the Bradford ranks, and he really set Super League on fire for a number of years, and it was the youngest ever player to win the Lance Todd Trophy at Wembley on the losing team, I may add. And then obviously Bradford went on to win numerous championships, World Club challenges, and he wasn't just I thought he was great. He was a good player. He was great when his brother came as well, when Bradford had Henry playing alongside him, but he was a really good advocate for the sport, and I think he ticks a lot of boxes. He's been retired over 5 years, and I think he's one that should be in. I know he's not British, but he played in the British game, and he kind of sees himself as a bit of a New Zealand Yorkshireman these days.
Do you think because when you think about Jamie Peacock, like, he did transcend more than one team. Do you think Robbie Paul has done a similar thing?
No, but he's always. I mean, I know he played a little bit at Salford, didn't he? And he played a little bit at Huddersfield, but it was the end of his career at that point. He'll always be remembered as a Bradford player, And I don't think it matters that there's lots of great players in the Hall of Fame that have only ever played for one club. Andy Farrell, I know Gary Schofield dotted around, but he'll always be remembered for being a Leeds player, won't he? The likes of Billy Boston, people like that. So no, I don't think it matters that it can be one club, I think.
Okay, yeah, interesting one then. It's interesting he went for a Bradford player and
Well, talking about it though, if you think about it, there's only been one of the things we said is you've got to have really won the Super League or Challenge Cup. There ain't been many teams.
No. You've got to do that multiple times, haven't you?
Yeah, so you've only really got Wigan, Saints, Bradford,
Leeds
to go off, really.
Yeah, I know. But like Jamie Peacock, he very clearly transcended more than one team, and I wonder if that's played a part in the decision to induct him in, and the fact he's the most decorated player in the game.
Yeah. There's other players, and we talked, didn't we? But I don't know if they're like, obviously James Roby. I think we will see him inducted into the Hall of Fame in years to come. He hasn't been retired long enough, has he? But all-time record games in Super League. Am I right in thinking that? Yeah, no one's played more games than him.
Yeah.
I think we'll see James Roby in years to come. Any others you can think of?
Well, I mean, the one that springs to mind for me is the very obvious Kevin Sinfield. The thing that I worry about there is I don't know if he had that much of an illustrious international career and whether that actually means something. What do you think? You're smirking, so...
Look, Kevin Sinfield, incredible what he did for Leeds Rhinos, and I think what he's done off the field it has been even more incredible than what he achieved as a Leeds Rhinos player and captain. If you're asking me about England, I will never forget, ever, the semi-final against New Zealand when he shot out the line and Sean Johnson stepped around him, and the rest is history. Yeah. But I don't think that should really come into account. Do you?
I don't know. I mean, it's a tough question because what I'm thinking now is like, if you
sit on the fence long enough, you might get a sore ass. No, you once told me that.
I'm not sitting on the fence. All I'm thinking, I'm thinking like, everything that he's done for the game. Like, when we think about the criteria, obviously we've got what they must meet, but like, what have they done for the game? And I'm just wondering, like, he's done an incredible amount for the game.
Yeah, he has.
In recent years, and is that enough to induct him into the Hall of Fame, or has it got to be like he's playing? Because he did have an incredible club career.
Yeah, look how many titles they won, and you only got to remember the year that Leeds Rhinos finished sixth, went on to win the title, and his captaincy was the mark of him, wasn't he? It was an incredible captain. I said incredible again.
I know, mate. You're well past your quarter.
He was a brilliant captain, fantastic. Yeah, I think Kevin Sinfield deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame.
Despite the missed tackle on Sean Johnson.
I can just about
let it go.
Let that one rest.
Okay, well, who do you think? Obviously, we picked out a couple of players there. It's definitely an interesting conversation to be had. Really interested to hear what people say. And perhaps there's people in the past, like pre-Super League, that still haven't been recognised enough. And, they're waiting on the fringes to be inducted into there. So, anyway, hope you've enjoyed this week's set of six. Don't forget our prediction video. What would you talk about in there, Karl?
Yeah, we spoke about the final two rounds of Super League, really, and what it means. Leeds Rhinos are on the edge. They've got to keep winning. St Helens are in a very difficult situation at the minute. So, yeah, we spoke in quite a bit of depth about that. And then last thing, just before we go, there's a big game in the Midlands this weekend. The Midlands Hurricanes are taking on Workington Town in the playoffs for League One, so that should be a cracker as well.
Yeah, and that's history making. They've never made it to the playoffs before, so good effort, Midlands Hurricanes. Big shout out there. So if you're at the Wigan versus Leeds game and you see us, then give us a shout. We'll be doing a couple of laps with our friend Graham Berry, who's running around the stadium. So big shout out to him and his campaign to raise money for MNDA. Until next weekend, take care. Any final words, Karl?
No.
See you later.